The Civil Rights Movement was an important time in American history. The most important figure in this time was Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
The importance of him is quite obvious. He changed basically the conscience of America in my regard. In addition to what he did as far as civil rights, not only for black people, but just for people as a whole, and opening up a gateway, whereas if you're different in regards to your culture, your race, there's a way for you to be on a field that's more level than what it was in the early 50s.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
Personally, Dr. King was prolific in his development of thinking. He was ahead of his time. People just weren't thinking like that and acting like that in that regard. Now, a lot of things that people don't know about Dr. King is that he was pretty much almost pushed into that role. He was reluctant initially, which I think is very interesting because we saw him growing in the position of what he was becoming, and unfortunately, due to his early demise, we'll never see what his paramount was going to be, because he was still growing, even though he was at a standstill, but he was growing. He went beyond civil rights, and he started actually getting blackballed because he was starting to speak out against things such as war, and that's when it started becoming a problem. I think it's important to keep Dr. King in the forefront of our conscience, because as we see today, there's still much work to be done.
But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination.
He made a lot of changes in this world, which a lot of our people are taking for granted today. Hopefully within the near future, we will all be able to come together and be united as one, as he wanted us to be, and make a change in the world that he has given his life for us to be able to make. I think a lot of people did a lot of great things for his holiday, and a lot of people didn't just sit around and be lazy, because that's not what he expected of us. I know me and my daughter went out and fed the homeless.
Changed the way we live today. He was the one who was able to allow us to have the freedom that I believe everybody deserves to have. It's not just so much about race, but it's just human rights, and I'm grateful.
Yes, black men as well as white men would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned.
A very important man, because if you look around us, you see everybody is together in one room equally. So I think that was a very excellent thing he did for all of us people.
We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And he's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.